watching this video. The TV show Fairly OddParents was among one of their favourites as a kid. The premise of the show, that started in 2001, was this kid Timmy had an awful life with neglectful parents, an evil babysitter, and his problems wasn't just at home. He had buddies at school, a crazy teacher, just to add to the misfortune that was Timmy Turner's existence. So he was given fairy godparents whose job it is to grant his every wish in an attempt to make his awful life slightly less unbearable, as long as those wishes did not break the rules. The show lasted over 16 years with 10 seasons and 172 episodes, and outside of the original show there were several movies, crossovers that had kids stuck to their screens many moons ago. There was also a spin-off live action which I try and forget, as well as a continuation series called New Wish starring another unfortunate kid called Hazel. So I'm sure it's not shocking to you that over 20 years of this franchise, a lot has happened. We have seen the rise and fall of our main characters, the birth of a fairy baby, and almost the end of humanity several times, caused by various 10-year-olds. Within all that, we have been made aware of dozens of magical beings and other non-human creatures that exist in the Fairly OddParents universe, fairies included of course, and even some that appear in the Oh Yeah cartoon, which was a series of shorts that the Fairly OddParents originally appeared in. So I have compiled all the noteworthy beings in this video. So let's explore the Fairly OddParents universe and all it has to offer. There will be major spoilers from this point on, but this show is 20 years old, you had time. We're starting to list off with my personal favourite, the Pixies. All the others pale in comparison in my opinion. They are my favourite antagonists in the series. The Pixies first appeared in the episode Pixies Inc. It starts out with the Pixies buying Fairy World. I'm unaware as to why it was up for sale, but it was. They rename it Pixie Inc., strip Fairy World of all its fun and whimsy, and force the fairies to wear suits.
To keep the fairies in line, we need to make them think they're still important.
Pixies are just as powerful as fairies, but treat magic like a business. They demand all wishes be submitted in paper, force the fairies into performance reviews, and ban all fun wishes. They are a business, so their ultimate goal is to store everything into their company and have complete control. The only way to defeat them is by using a contract against them, as they always follow the terms of a contract. So if you can outwit, they can be defeated.
Oh. No.
My favourite episode featuring the Pixies is the episode School's Out, the musical, which is a Fairly OddParents TV movie and musical. The movie is basically the Pixies' 40-year plan to try and rule the earth. They adopt and raise a human child, so when they reach adulthood, he would make the life of a child with fairies so miserable that that child would wish for all parents and adults to be gone. Apparently there's a rule that if children ever rule the earth, then Pixies have authority to take over. I love this movie for multiple reasons. One, I love musicals, and the Pixies rapping was iconic. Two, I love planning out way in advance. In fact, this video is being made in January. I like being ahead of things so I can appreciate that organisation. The main two Pixies we see are Head Pixie, better known as HP for efficiency, and Sanderson, his second in command. In fact, all the other Pixies other than HP look the same. I am assuming for efficiency. Learning multiple employees' names and faces wastes too much company time and therefore loses money. So it makes sense that they all look the same and have the same name. Even the Pixie Girls are just big Sandersons. The Pixies appear in the video game The Fairly OddParents Clash of the Anti-World, and there are anti-Pixies that appear. They are the opposite of Pixies who love to party. The Pixies are known to work with anti-fairies, which barely makes sense if they would be worse than the fairies. At least the fairies have some form of rule. The anti-fairies are pure chaos, but you know the saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Moving on. The next type of being in the Fairly Odd universe I want to talk about is the holiday mascots, who are beings that control the major holidays. Firstly, we have Santa, who I'm 100% sure is torturing elves. The first time he appeared was in the Oh Yeah cartoon series in the Fairly OddParents short, when he came to procure his runaway elf, who was pretending to be a fairy to get away from this man.
Tell others about me! Don't forget what you saw here today! Tell my story! Tell my story!
His next significant appearance is in the episode Christmas Every Day, when Timmy wished for it to be Christmas every day. This does ultimately result in everyone turning crazy and trying to kill Santa. I know the perfect song for them, but back to the episode. Apparently, it being Christmas every day drains Fairy World of its magic, since Santa borrows magic from the fairies to deliver all the presents. The Cosmo Wonder can't undo the wish. Then Timmy gets jumped by the other holiday mascots, such as the April Fool, Baby New Year's, the Easter Bunny, and Cupid. Santa starts going crazy.
I'm running out of creative ideas!
Chris, you're working yourself to death.
So as normal, Timmy messed up. The next holiday mascot I want to talk about is the April Fool, where I already mentioned in the Christmas Everyday episode, but he also starred in the episode Fool's Day Out, where he performs increasingly dangerous pranks and then tries to launch the Earth into a new ice age because he thought it would be funny, but was defeated when he was unable to finish his joke, so he exploded and went back to fairy world. The Great Potato is the only holiday mascot that did not appear in the episode Christmas Every Day. Another thing that makes the Great Potato unique, this is the only holiday mascot for a non-human holiday. The Great Potato is the holiday mascot for Leprechanica, which is celebrated by leprechauns. Lastly, we have Cupid, who fits into several categories. He is the god of love, a holiday mascot, and a fairy, truly an icon. Whilst I have a lot of memories of him in the episodes like Love Struck and A Partnership, his most recent appearance is in the new continuation when Cosmo and Wanda have a new godchild called Hazel, with his new look in the episode A Date to Remember. The next species is Genie. Both fairies and genies grant wishes, but genies are not controlled by the rules, which is the rule book that tells fairy godparents what godkids can and cannot wish for. Whilst genies have no restraints on the types of wishes they can grant, they do have a limited number, which is 3. The main genie we see in the series is Norm, the genie, who first appeared in the episode Genie, Meanie, Miny, Mo, where Timmy was tired of the rules, and when he finds out genies have no rules, he's ecstatic. But we also find out that whatever wish a genie grants, they always twist it. When Timmy wishes Trixie would be in love with Timmy Turner, Norm granted the wish.
That's Timmy P. Turner of Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Turns out that after 3 wishes, genies get sucked back into the lamp, but the lamp doesn't just trap genies, it traps any magical creature and just looks for the closest source of magic. So Norm gets Cosmo and Wanda sucked into the lamp in his place, which starts his career as an antagonist to Timmy and his fairies. We do see other genies, but they never talk, and Norm's the only one of note. Next up we have leprechauns. Not to be mean or anything, but these guys are the least interesting of the sentient magical beings. They constantly get grouped in with fairies, pixies, and the others. According to the Fairy Oddparents fandom wiki, their powers is rainbow teleportation, which means they use fart rainbows to travel. Cosmo and Wanda started World War I, and Cosmo sunk Atlantis. How are they in the same group as the farting little green men? We see a bunch of different types of leprechauns in the show, most notably the McPunchy clan and Seamus in the class in Spell Elementary School. In the episode Truthful Cosmoquences, we learn owls eat leprechauns.
And he's not an owl who eats mice.
I eat leprechauns!
Or it could just be this owl, who knows? But either way, they get eaten by owls. The next creature we have is dragons. For this category, we are only counting dragons that were born dragons, as several people have been turned into dragons in Fairly OddParents, the first being Vicky in the Oh Yeah cartoons. A lot of the dragons in Fairly OddParents are used as side gags and not too important, so I will talk about 3 dragons in particular. My favourite addition to the noteworthy dragons is the Unwished dragon, who lives in the Unwished world, where all things and beings that were created from wishes go when the godchild reverses the wish, and there the Unwished dragon eats them. I am not sure if this is meant to be the same place Timmy got kidnapped to, and it has grown since Timmy's time, since in the episode Escape from Wish Island, or Timmy is just so chaotic he has his own. I think it is the latter. There's also Snowball, who is Cosmo's dragon, who he let loose in Fairy World to cause havoc. I truly understand why people stopped having babies after Cosmo was born. There was also a dragon in the episode 99 who kidnapped Timmy's parents and tried to eat them, an icon. I don't think he did anything wrong. Next is not a long category, dwarves. Apparently Snow White and the 7 dwarves are real. We don't see them, but we do meet Crazy, the 8th dwarf, in the episode Crocker of Gold, so that's neat. Next are witches, who are varied species. I'm pretty sure they are just humans that have access to magic of their own without the assistance of a magical object or creature. Witches sometimes pop up as background characters, like in Fairy Idol or School of Rock. The most notable witch in the Fairly OddParents universe is the character Oldham Bitterroot, a witch from the 17th century who lived in the area that would later be called Dinsdale. He looks like Crocker, but he may or may not be related to him. He appears in the episode Which Witch is Witch. He masquerades as a witch hunter, accusing anything and anyone of being a witch.
But what of it now?
Despite being a witch himself, he ends up stuck in a well for the next 400 years. Well deserved. The next species are gods and goddesses, which are beings of varying powers and are usually worshipped as they reign over one thing, like time or nature. There are the Olympian gods, which mainly appeared in the episode Freaks and Geeks. In that episode, Artemis, Dionysus, Zeus, Pan, and Poseidon. As well as Cupid, he really is a part of a lot of teams. So those are the Olympian gods. The next god that I want to talk about is Mother Nature, who first appeared in Oh Yeah cartoon in the episode The Zappies, then again in the original series in the episode Balance of the Flower, and most recently in New Wish episode Potatoes. She changes appearances a lot. Next we have Father Time, who is the god of time, who would have guessed, who first appears in the episode Timmy's Secret Wish, where everyone discovered that Timmy wished everyone would stop aging so he could be 10 forever and keep his fairies. So no one has aged on Earth for over 50 years. My opinion on this episode is yes, Timmy should not have done that, but he is 10. They gave a 10-year-old very vast power with very few limits. It's not surprising that he found a loophole. They are all adults. They should have figured this out. And the fact it took this long for them to add the rule you cannot wish to stay 10 forever is really not Timmy's fault. These immortal beings overlooked it. Anyway, Father Time appears in that episode to set everything right. He also appears in the episode in New Wish when Hazel wishes to be famous for 25 hours. Alongside Father Time in that episode, 15,000 Minutes of Fame, is this character Nick of Time, who helps save Hazel in the episode. We have our first and only demigoddess of this list, Via Zalia, who appears in the episode Battle of Dimbosonia, who ends up trying to take over the world in New Wish. I don't know why people want to take over the Earth, it's not that interesting. Next is the Darkness, which is its own category and it's only one creature that turns into the Kindness by the end of the episode. It was the main villain of the trilogy of TV movies under the name Wishology. Brenda Fraser was in it. The Darkness, for the majority of the movies, wanted to consume the world. At the end, it wanted to make friends. We love personal growth. The next group is the Mer People. As I mentioned earlier, Cosmo did sink the city of Atlantis. There are a lot of Mer People, and the Mer People can communicate with their minds and they live underwater. The two most important ones are King Greg and King Neptuna. King Greg is the former king of Atlantis, who was king when Cosmo sunk it. And when Cosmo, Wanda, and Timmy go there in the episode Something Fishy, he captures them and then tries to feed them to a kraken. King Neptuna is the current king of Atlantis, as seen in the episode Dadlantis. I don't know what happened to King Greg. Maybe the kraken got him. Next we have the Guardians, which appear in the movie trilogy Wishology. In that trilogy, to save them, they need to collect 3 ancient wands: the Fire Wand, the Wind Wand, and the Ice Wand. And these wands are protected by the 3 Guardians: Polar Bear Guardian, Rock Guardian, and the stars of the Scooby-Doo movie called Scooby-Doo and the Rock and Roll Mystery. The band Kiss is also Guardian. Wild times. The next species is Sweet Sparkle. In Elementary School, which is a school for young magical beings, in the class that we see, it has fairies, leprechauns, elves, and Sweet Sparkles, a being that can turn anything sweet. What a useful skill. There's only one, this one. Next up we have superheroes and villains. The Crimson Chin is a superhero from a comic book that Timmy reads. He appears in the Oh Yeah cartoon series and at the start of the original series in episode 3, in the episode Chin Up. Timmy either brings him to life or jumps into the world he lives in with the help of Cosmo and Wanda. The Crimson Chin is a mashup of parodies of both Superman and Spider-Man. He has the weakness of Chinite. His secret identity is just him, still in costume, with glasses on his arm-length chin face. He has the chin strap of Solitude as a hiding place. He also works at a newspaper called The Daily Blabberty. My favourite part of his lore is how he got his powers. He was a struggling talk show host, bitten by a radioactive handsome celebrity actor. We don't learn why the celebrity was radioactive and not dead, but it worked out for him. In the episode Life Camera Adam, TV's Adam West guest stars in it. He is playing the Crimson Chin in a movie, and the Crimson Chin villain, the Bronze Kneecap, tries to ruin the film. The Crimson Chin best known rival,
The Crimson Chin! Wrong! The Nigger Chin!
from our alternative universe, so he's the opposite of the Crimson Chin, is introduced in the episode The Crimson Chin Meets Mighty Mom and Dino Dad. I always love when this character showed up. He also beats out creator of the Crimson Chin for making him always lose. Next we have Crash Nebula, who is also a comic book hero that Timmy reads. Timmy does not bring him to life at all, which is shocking. My main memory was the Lemonade episode where Timmy made everyone drink feet sweat so that he could make enough money to see Crash Nebula on ice. Next we have Catman. In the Fairly Odd universe, Adam West is a famous actor for playing a character called Catman in an old TV show. Not to be confused with the DC character Catman. It's meant to be a parody of his work as Batman, in case you didn't know. In the Fairly Oddparents universe, Adam West believes he is Catman to a certain extent, and he still wears costume even in the show finished a long time ago, and he fights crime. He's not very good at it. I'm not sure which one I saw first, but either this or the Kim Possible parody episode was the first reference to Adam West's Batman. Adam West's Batman is very interesting. There are a bunch of other superheroes that were created due to Timmy, but these were my favourite. And of course, the one, the only, Dark Laser. The most iconic thing about this man is his toy dog Flipsy. I can't think of him without thinking of Flipsy, the true icon out of the two of them. Dark Laser first appeared in the episode Hard Copy when Timmy brought him to life. He also ended up going to the Unwished Island that I mentioned earlier. Still being evil, he escapes a bunch of times. He's a major reoccurring villain in the series, caused by Timmy. He's just an icon. Look at him in his little suit.
Surrender or face Flipsy, the flipping dog of doom.
The next species we have is gnomes. They exist. I have very little information on them. They appear in the episode Fairy Idol, and there is also one in the elementary school. That's it. I know nothing else about them. They appear sometimes and they don't seem fond of pixies. Next up we have elves. There are a bunch of different types of elves in the Fairly OddParents universe. The first time we see elves was actually in the OYA cartoons. This elf was called Jeff, and he is one of Santa's elves who ran away because Santa is torturing them. Free the elves. I am anti-Santa.
Be one of us, Jeff. No!
There are many types of elves, and even some of them have names. Firstly, as I mentioned, Santa's elf. They appear the earliest and are mentioned the most times. Whenever Santa appears, they are usually around. They are also in the live action movies. The next type of elves are forest elves that live in trees and bait. That does not sound safe. Really, it's a forest fire waiting to happen. Next is a shoemaker elf. The name is rather self-explanatory. The only one we meet is in elementary school, called Eddie. The last type of elves are evil elves. Yet again, self-explanatory. They are evil, and according to Wanda, their natural enemy is unicorns. Next species we have is aliens. The Google Pies are well appreciated by me. They are these cute invaders that hop from world to world causing destruction. The first time they appear is in the episode So Totally Spaced Out, which sounds like a Totally Spies episode name to me. They are just so evil and cute. What's not to love? The next one is the Predaceans, an alien species that like violence and strengthening their empire. The one we see the most is Princess Mandy, who tries to marry the prince of another alien species. Speaking of that alien race, we have Mark Chang and the Yucatamians. Mark Chang is the main alien we meet. He first appears in the episode Spaced Out. He switches between being friend and foe to Timmy Turner, and he is infatuated with Vicky. I think the reason he likes Vicky is because his race believe hating cute and pleasant things is a must, and Vicky is opposite of cute, so it's no wonder he likes her. Last but not least, the fairies. It would be kind of weird to make an entire video about the mythical creatures and extraordinary beings in Fairly OddParents without mentioning them. Fairies reside in Fairy World, but it's not just the godparents who live there. There are a lot of different types of fairies. First, I want to mention fairy animals like Sparky and Cupid's dog. They are animals with crowns. They talk. That was about it. Not all fairies are fairy godparents or specialized fairies. Some of them just chilled in Fairy World and have regular jobs that humans would have. There are standard fairies like Mama Cosma, Blonda, Snosmo, Big Daddy and his gang. They just stay in Fairy World for the most part. Firstly, for specialized fairies is Sai, the science fairy, who first appeared in the episode Weird Science. He looks like Einstein and a jar had a baby, and he likes science. Next we have the Fairy Council, who rule over all of Fairy World. They appear when Fairy World is in danger, like in the Wishology trilogy. They also appear when a rule has been broken, like in Timmy's Secret Wish. They are still making new rules as shown by the Timmy Turner loophole from the live action movies. There's also an Anti-Fairy Council who, mentioning anti-fairies, let's talk more about them. Anti-fairies are the opposite of fairies. Whenever a fairy is born, an anti-fairy is born. So all fairies have one. They use their magic to cause misery and pain, as they are the opposite of godparents who are meant to bring joy. They first appear in the episode That Old Magic, where we learn that they escape Fairy World on Friday the 13th to cause bad luck. Normally they are in prison in Fairy World. The anti-fairies we meet the most, Anti-Wanda, who is stupid. There's Anti-Cosmo, who is the smarter fairy of them all. There's also Anti-Jorgen, who is skinny, and there's Iret, who's a little square icon. There's also anti-fairy versions of the fairy animals. Next we have the Tooth Fairy, who deals with any wish regarding teeth, which is surprisingly a lot in this show. She appeared first in the Zappies, in the OYA cartoons, and she has been Jorgen's romantic interest since the beginning. Oh, and she gets really mad if you mess with teeth. Don't cross this woman. There's also the Sandman, who is in charge of sending people to sleep and selling mattresses. Everyone needs a side hustle, I guess. We have our boy Cupid, yet again, who is the fairy of love, and if he does not get enough love, he will die, as shown in the episode Love Struck. There's also the April Fool, who is a fairy, who I spoke about. Next we have the reassignment fairies, who collect fairy godparents to take them from their current god kids to give them to new ones. The first one appeared in the pilot episode of Fairly Godparents in 2001, called The Big Problem. When Timmy wished to be an adult, he no longer needed his godparents, so the reassignment fairies came to take him. They appear a couple more times after that, normally when Timmy messes up again. Up next is the Amazonian fairies, which are an all-female group of warrior fairies that are human-sized for some reason. On the topic of big fairies, there are also ancient warrior fairies that appeared in the Wishology, but now the only large fairies are the Amazonians and Jorgen. A recent addition to the fairies is Music Fairy, which is in charge of music-related wishes, and for once it is not a typo that I spelled her name like that. She does spell her name with a silent N and a PH because she has swagger like that. She first appeared in the episode The Trouble with Rivals, and Cosmo Wanda seems starstruck because of her star power. Next up is our man Jorgen von Strangle, who is the strongest fairy around. Him and the Fairy Council control all the fairies and Fairy World. He also guards the gate to stop the anti-fairies from leaving. He is the enforcer of the rules and stops anyone from making illegal wishes. He is also technically a god fairy, fairy, but his god kids tend to flee. The only one we do see is in the Oh Yeah cartoons, and he was terrified. He's also a teacher at the Fairy Academy, which is the academy where you go to learn to be a fairy godparent. He also doesn't have wings like every other fairy. He insists on having a jetpack because wings are girly. I vividly remember the episode him and the Tooth Fairy broke up and he became a wreck.
My one true love, God!
He did try and rip out Timmy's tooth to give to her, so it was a valid thing that she dumped him. They got back together. And of course, the final fairy I want to talk about, godparent fairies, whose job it is to make miserable kids' life better. But once the kids grow up, they lose their fairies and any memory associated with them, which is why in the Fairy Godparents live action movies, Timmy refuses to graduate 4th grade, date, or move out of his parents' house, so he won't be classed as grown up, even though he's in his 20s, just to keep Cosmo Wanda. Looking back at my earlier comments, maybe I was too harsh on leprechauns because fairies have so many weaknesses. They're the ones that I remembered easily, like nets because they have wings. I also vividly remember the magical backup, which is similar to the April Fool, who is also a fairy. If a fairy is not granting wishes for a long time, they explode into dust. They even had a funeral scene in New Wish for all the fairies that died of magical backup, which is insane because this was not initially a fatal thing, but according to the wiki, they also can't fight armadillos. So maybe I was too harsh on leprechauns. The last category of things that exist in the Fairly OddParents universe are the wish creatures, which are creatures that did not exist prior to the events of the show, which is a long-winded way of me saying things made by wishes. I'm not going to name every single creature that was wished up by Timmy because that is over 100 episodes and then we have to do all the ones by Hazel. I'm not doing that, but I will talk about the ones I remember fondly. There's the evil bugs that Timmy made so Vicky would be less evil. I just found their look really funny. I don't know why. There's Lisa, the anti-fairy created when Hazel turned herself into a fairy. Iconic. There's Barry the dinosaur, a dinosaur Hazel kidnapped from his time and made live in the present day. There's the manga character that Hazel brought to life called Kenneth. The Mer guy, that was E. There's the intergalactic diplomat, which are beings that exist to sort out disputes. There's Super Bite, which is a half man, half bite that Timmy wished up that turned into a stalker. It reminded me of the episode with Billy's possessed tricycle in Billy and Mandy. This bite creeped me out so much as a kid.
Bye-bye, psycho bike! What the?
I'm indestructible, remember?
I did debate doing a detail section on all the crossover creatures from other shows and games, such as the iconic episode with Jimmy Neutron, which would mean a lot of the aliens like King Goobot and all the aliens from Planet Sheen are technically canon to Fairly OddParents. But if we are counting crossovers, there's also the Nicktoons Unite games, which includes shows like Jimmy Neutron, Danny Phantom, and SpongeBob, so that would mean Ghost and Talking Sponges exist. Then there's the creatures in the games like the Crab People, Umagu, the ancient creature from the Volcano Islands in the first Nicktoon game. Or in Nicktoon Attack of the Toybot, there are more shows included in the game, like Invader Zim, My Life as a Teenage Robot, Rocko's Modern Life, Ren and Stimpy, and many others, plus the evil Toybots that are the villains. They all exist in the Fairly Odd extended universe. Of course, I have not mentioned some of the beings, and I'm sure you will tell me about your favorites that I missed in the comments. That will be all for this video. Goodbye!
You can only imagine the joy I feel in my heart right now.